I mean, that to me is really what's going to potentially make the Giants Super Bowl contenders in, a few years here, is if Jackson Dart can be a legit starting quarterback. A team that I want to talk about, kind of underrated. I mean, they're getting underrated for a reason, to be honest with you. That's the New York Giants. Now, the way I look at the New York Giants, by the end of the season, I think a lot of people are going to look at this team and say they were better than what their record said they are, because their record this year, or their schedule this year, is flat out brutal. But I think when you look at this football team, there are some very interesting pieces on this team. When you look at this defense, I mean, this is one of the best defenses in the game. Like, their defensive line is one of the best units in football. I mean, you talk about Dexter Lawrence, who I thought would have been the defensive player of the year last year if he would have stayed healthy. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, that is an absolute unit right there. They're going to be able to get after the quarterback in New York, and their pass rush is going to be scary this upcoming year. And then, like, when you look at the other pieces on their defense as well, I mean, they added Paulson Adebo this year. They added Javon Holland at safety. They have Drew Phillips, Deontay Banks. You hope that he can be a little better this year. Tyler Nubin, like Micah McFadden, Bobby Okereke. I mean, I don't think they have a single like below average player on their defense. Everybody, I think, is average to great on that defense, on that starting unit. And that's why I think that, they will be very interesting, and they will give teams a hard time because of the fact that, they're going to be able to play some really good defense. Now, to be honest with you, what really worries me about this football team is that I don't think Russell Wilson's good. I think Russell Wilson is a below average to like bad starter. Like, I watched him when I was watching George Pickens tape, and wow, I can see why George Pickens crashed out in Pittsburgh, because he's not good. But they do have Malik Neighbors there, who is an exciting young player who, he could take that leap into, hey, I'm a top 5 receiver. I mean, that's how good Malik Neighbors is. That's how good he could be this upcoming season. And, they probably do need a guy opposite of Malik Neighbors. It's already too late. They're not going to be able to really add that. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson's pretty good. Darius Slayton, that's a guy. I think their offensive line will be a little better this year than it was last year. But I just think that they have a really bad break with this schedule. And I mean, when you look at this schedule, let me Google that real quick, because I look at that schedule and I don't see many wins on that schedule. I mean, you go Commanders week 1, I'd go Commanders. Cowboys week 2, Cowboys. Chiefs week 3, Chiefs. Chargers week 4, I'd go Chargers. Saints week 5, I'd go Giants. So they're 1-4 there. Eagles. I mean, like you just look at the schedule. I don't see many wins on it's an extremely difficult schedule. And I kind of feel bad for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll that they're in this situation, because I think Brian Daboll is a good coach. And, this might be a little bit of a hot take here, but I think Joe Schoen's a good general manager. I think that he's done some good things as the general manager. I get it, the Saquon stuff. I understand why the New York Giants moved on from Saquon Barkley, because at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley wasn't going to help this team get to the playoffs or be a respectable football team. If anything, Saquon Barkley would have hurt their draft stock. They wouldn't have ended up with Abdul Carter if they had Saquon Barkley. That's the reason why I look at that move and I say, all right, I understand it. I know Giants fans are upset about it because Saquon Barkley went from the Giants to the Eagles and was a big piece in them winning a Super Bowl. But you can't live in that world. You have to do what's best for your football team. And you don't want to be in the business of paying running backs. That's why I completely back Joe Schoen on that move there. And what did they do with that money? They moved on from Saquon Barkley and they got Brian Burns, who's a very good edge. Edge is a much more important position than running back, I would prefer to pay an edge than I would a running back because they just have more impact on the game. And you can isolate them, and edges make more of an impact because with the running back, you need more pieces around you. Like Saquon Barkley wasn't Saquon Barkley from this year in New York. Now, he was excellent in 2022, but at the same time, he wasn't the 2,000-yard rusher that we saw in Philadelphia in New York because New York didn't have the offensive line to help him get to that point. So I think that the Giants, they made the right decision there, and unfortunately, it just didn't work their way because he went to a rival team. But they weren't good last year at all. They got the 3rd overall pick, and they picked a guy who I think, Abdul Carter, he could be one of the best defensive players in football for a long time here. I mean, he could. That game the other day was extremely impressive that he had. And I mean, would they be in that position to draft Abdul Carter if they had Saquon Barkley? I don't think they would be. Now, it sucked for them because they weren't in a position to draft, Cam Ward, who is, let's be honest, that's who they wanted. But Jackson Dart, he had a pretty decent preseason debut. Maybe Brian Dable can coach him up to be a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, I'm not there yet. I wasn't a huge Jackson Dart fan myself, but maybe they saw something there. Maybe Brian Dable saw something in Jackson Dart and said, hey, maybe if I bring this guy into my program, maybe I can develop this guy. And look, I will say this. If Jackson Dart works out for the New York Giants, that's going to set that football team up for years to come. Because when I look at this roster, like I said, this is a really good roster that they have. And if they can get a young quarterback that's on a rookie contract that they can now spend money on other positions to help him out, that is going to be huge for that team. And I mean, that to me is really what's going to potentially make the Giants Super Bowl contenders in, a few years here is if Jackson Dart can be a legit starting quarterback. Now you can spend money to improve your offensive line. You can add a receiver opposite of Malik Neighbors. You're probably not going to have a good draft, or you're probably going to have a good draft pick this year. So you're going to be able to get another impact player. And it really is, to me, a shame that, Joe Shane might be leaving after this year because I do think he has done some pretty good things with this team. The idea of what he's trying to do, it's sound, right? You build on both sides of the ball. It's unfortunate they missed on Evan Neal. Kayvon Thibodeau wasn't the player that they thought he would be. I mean, he still is a good player, but they drafted Abdul Carter. They traded for Brian Burns. They paid Dexter Lawrence. They did some sound things. They improved their offensive line, or at least tried to. I do think what they were trying to do was a lot of the things were the right decisions. It's just, unfortunately, they just didn't work out for that team. So, that's where I look at that and I say, it's just unfortunate there.